Good afternoon YouTube, and welcome back to another video where today I'm going to be teaching you one of my favourite tricks, which is the tail whip.
Somebody stop me, I'm out of control. I gave them my body, now they after my soul.
The tail whip is most definitely one of the more technical tricks, but hopefully today I'm going to break it down for you and give you some really useful tips so that you can go away and dial in this awesome trick. I'm going to be using my dirt jump bike because it's very lightweight, it's very small, and it is definitely the easiest type of bike to learn and do this trick on. As for the ramp setup, the MTB hopper ramp is set up as a perfect fly out, as this is just nice and safe to learn the tail whip on. Before we even get started and think about doing a tail whip on the ramp, there's a few important setup things to take note of on your bike. The first of those being the brake lines. Because your bike's going to be spinning a full circle, if you have dropper seat posts, front brake, gear cables, the hose is just going to get tangled. I only run a rear brake with an extra long hose to prevent this happening. The next thing you need to set up correctly is your seat height. Because you're jumping off the bike, kicking it around, and then climbing back on, the lower and more out the way this seat can be, the easier the trick. Finally, it's important to make sure that your cranks are really tight and they don't spin, which is actually the opposite to what they're designed to do. But if they're spinning around, it's going to make it very, very difficult to put your feet back on in the correct place once the bike's come around. So there we have it, the bike's all dialed in and you're ready to take the first steps into learning the tail whip. The first thing that you need to do when learning the tail whip is work out what direction you're going to be spinning the bike. Now, the correct way to do this is based on what feels more comfortable for you when you think about doing a tail whip. However, the correct way for what foot forward you are is, if you're left foot forward, then you should spin the bike to the right, whereas if you're right foot forward, the bike should spin to the left. This will just make it a bit easier, but if that doesn't feel comfortable for you, then you ride goofy or switch, so you should do it whatever way your head tells you. Your arms actually play a key role in doing a tail whip. You create like a circular motion, and that helps to spin the bike around. And it's so important that you could actually do a tail whip and not even kick it, and just in the air do the circle motion with your arms, and that would be enough like power and technique to actually make the tail whip work. So make sure that you practice the technique on the floor like the video is showing you. Finally, now you've worked out what way the bike spins and you understand the arm technique, before we take it to a jump, lay on your back and practice the tail whip. This gives you such a good understanding and feeling of how the trick works. You can practice kicking it, you can practice the arm motion, and you can practice locating and getting back on those pedals. So before you even think about taking it to a ramp, make the time to dial in the tail whip whilst laying on your back. Now it's the scary part. You're ready to try the tail whip on a jump for the very first time. So approach your fly out jump with enough speed to gain around 3 foot of air, because air time is gonna be your friend with this trick. You've got to spin the bike around and get back on it. Make sure that when you're pedaling in, you leave enough time to set your cranks up and be in the attack position. Your setup is really important because you're jumping off and kicking the bike. So if your cranks are in funny positions, it's just never gonna work. As soon as you begin to leave the ramp, that is when you kick the tail whip in your preferred direction. What you'll probably find the first few times you do it, and it's completely normal, is that the bike is flying above your head and you're nowhere near landing it. All this is because you're not committing, which you won't do at the start. To fix this problem, you need to lean forward and be 100% committed. By leaning forward, not only does the bike remain underneath you, so it makes it easier to get back on, but it will spin quicker because it's directly underneath you. I would actually advise, if you're a complete beginner and never tried a tail whip, to just focus on the kick at this stage. So kick the bike, put it out in front of you and just land on your feet, because to commit and lean forward is just, it's not going to happen straight away. So take the time and pay attention to dialing the kick in. So as you kick the bike around, use your arms to help spin the bike around in the air, whilst at the same time keeping an eye on those pedals, so that when it comes around and you're ready to land, you know exactly where they are to get back on the bike. One thing that you should pay attention to at this stage is make sure you complete the rotation fully before trying to get back on. It's very natural to, the bike's come in around at sort of like 45 on a clock, and you might try and move yourself to it and get back on, which I can pretty much guarantee you'll land one-footed. If you do get that other foot back on, then you will just fall off instantly because you'll be at such a funny angle and really unbalanced. So make sure to complete that rotation before going on to the next step. You're now ready to land, so as the bike comes round, stick your leg out to stop the bike rotating. You should always put your front foot on first, but make sure to lock the rear brake, because if you don't, when your front foot goes on, then the pedal will drop and it will make you miss the back foot. It's now at this point that you'll realise how important it is to dial in 2 steps back where we was keeping the bike directly underneath us, because not only will it make the bike spin quicker, but it will make getting back on and landing at this stage so much easier. Put both feet back on the bike, absorb the landing as ever by bending your knees and your elbows, and roll out, having mastered one of the most technical tricks there is to learn. A quick pro tip is to lock the rear brake as you kick the bike. I mentioned this earlier about making it easier to land the trick, but what it also does is it stops the rear wheel spinning. When the rear wheel's spinning, the weight of the wheel is increased, so it actually makes the bike heavier to spin round. Probably sounds so technical and over the top, but it does make a difference, and this example will prove it to you. So without the wheel spinning, because there's no weight, the handlebars will just fly around effortlessly. As soon as you increase the weight, it's really difficult for the wheel to go around. It's exactly the same with a tail whip, so locking that rear brake will make your rotation that much easier. Now you're landing tail whips consistently and you fully understand the science behind it. Luckily we have a portable ramp, which means we can take it anywhere and do tail whips wherever we want.
Jam rock we are come from. Can't you hear it in the bass and drum? You know, yeah. Jam rock we are come from. Reggae I man still around. Them a try to forget we, the foundation that we laid down. But we are the head cornerstone that the entire house was built upon. We give the world music and soul. Follow no fashion, we are leading.
So there we have it. I hope that this video has helped you to master the tail whip. It's one of my favourite tricks because it is so technical. It takes a long time to learn, but when you do get it dialed, there's no better feeling. So yeah, I hope this video has helped you. Give it a thumbs up, leave some comments below. If you have any questions, ask them. I'll try to get back to you, and I'll see you guys in the next video.